The family meeting was already underway when my Uncle Richard stood up and announced the will reading. My 9-year-old daughter Emma sat quietly in the corner with her coloring book. She had not asked to come. I had brought her because I knew exactly what would happen. Richard laughed as he held up the envelope. Before we get into this, I want to make something clear. This child is worthless, SHESADOPTED, not blood family. She has no claim to any of this. I did not yell. I stood up calmly and pressed play on my phone. Every word he had just said came back through the speaker. Clear, recorded, time-stamped. Emma looked at him directly, her voice was steady. The judge said to keep recording because you might say something like that again. Richard's face went white. My mother started to speak, but my Aunt Margaret cut her off. Get out, Richard. He was kicked out of the family meeting. He was also, as it turned out, kicked out of a lot more than that. Some people in my family still think I went too far. I need you to tell me if they are right. The room was my mother's formal dining room. Heavy curtains, the kind of furniture that costs more than it should. 43 people sat in chairs arranged in careful rows. My mother had insisted on the formality because she always insisted on formality. I was calm. I had been calm for 18 months. Emma sat beside me now, her coloring book closed. She was not nervous. We had practiced. Richard had already left. His wife Linda followed him. My cousin Greg stayed. My Aunt Margaret stayed. My mother stayed, but she would not look at me. Let me tell you how we got here. I was never supposed to amount to much. My family made that clear early. I was the younger daughter. My sister Claire was the one with potential. She married a surgeon. I married a man my mother described as fine, I suppose. My mother told me when I was 24 that I should not bother with ambition. You are not built for it, sweetheart. Some people are, you are not one of them. I was working in medical device sales at the time. I was good at it. My mother did not ask. When I adopted Emma at 31, my mother sat me down in her kitchen and said, "This is a mistake. You can barely support yourself. How will you support a child who is not even yours?" I did not argue. I signed the adoption papers the following week. My sister Claire hosted Thanksgiving that year. She seated me at the far end of the table near the kitchen. Emma sat beside me. Claire smiled at everyone else and said, "We are so glad you could all make it." When dessert came, my Uncle Richard made a toast. To family, blood family, the people who matter. Emma was 6. She asked me later why he said it that way. I told her some people do not know what family means yet. What I did not tell her was that I had started building something the day she asked me that question. I opened my laptop that night and made the first call. My family assumed I was struggling. I let them assume. When my mother offered me her old car, I said thank you and drove it for 2 years. It did not matter that I could have bought 3 of them. What mattered was that she felt generous and I had space to work. I worked in medical device sales for 6 years. I was the top performer in my region for 4 of those years. My family did not ask about my work, so I did not tell them. When I switched to pharmaceutical consulting, my mother said, "Well, that is a step down, but at least it is stable." It was not a step down, it was triple my previous salary. I smiled and said I was grateful for stable work. My sister Claire bought a house in the same neighborhood as my mother, 5 bedrooms, a pool. She invited everyone over to see it. My mother walked through every room and said, "This is what success looks like." I was sitting in the kitchen with Emma. Claire came in and said, "You know, if you ever need help with Emma's school costs, just ask. I know it must be hard." I thanked her. I had paid off Emma's entire private school tuition for the next 4 years the month before, in full, with a donation that got her name on a bench in the courtyard. Claire did not know. No one knew. If you have ever been counted out by someone who should have known better, you already know what that silence feels like. My Uncle Richard managed the family trust. It was not a large trust. $2 million split between my mother, Richard, and Margaret. My grandfather had been a banker. He had done well, but not extravagantly. Richard treated the trust like a kingdom. He sent quarterly updates. He made decisions without consulting anyone. When my mother needed money for a new roof, Richard made her submit a written request. My mother complied. She always complied. Richard liked control. That was his currency. Not the money itself, but the fact that he held it and you did not. When Emma turned 8, Richard told me at a family barbecue that I should think about her future. She will need family support. You cannot do this alone. Lucky for you, we are here. I smiled. I told him I appreciated that. What he did not know was that Emma already had a trust fund, $420,000, managed by a trustee I had hired, untouchable until she turned 25. I had started it the year I adopted her. Richard kept talking. Of course, she is not blood family, so the main trust does not apply to her, but we can help in other ways. I nodded. I refilled his drink. My mother hosted Christmas that year. She invited everyone. She made a toast before dinner. To family, to the people who stay. Emma sat beside me. She was quiet. She had learned to be quiet at family gatherings. My cousin Greg sat across from us. He leaned over and said, "Emma, do you know you are adopted?" Emma looked at him. "Yes," Greg smiled. "Do you ever wonder about your real family?" I put my hand on Emma's shoulder. I did not say anything. Greg kept smiling. Emma said, "This is my real family." Greg laughed. "Sure, kid." I called my attorney the next morning. Her name was Patricia Reyes. I had worked with her for 3 years. She specialized in family law and estate litigation. I told her what Greg had said. I told her what Richard had said. I told her everything. Patricia listened. Then she said, "Do you want to protect her or do you want to make a point?" I said both. She said, "Then we need documentation. Every incident, every comment, dated and recorded." I started that day. My mother called me in February. She said she wanted to talk about my father's will. My father had died when I was 19. He had left everything to my mother. There was no inheritance for Claire or me. My mother had promised to divide things fairly when the time came. She said, "I am getting older. I want to make sure you girls are taken care of." I met her for lunch. She ordered a salad. I ordered soup. She said, "Claire has done so well. I want to make sure she is rewarded for that." I nodded. She said, "You have Emma now. That is expensive. I am going to set aside some money for her education. Maybe 50,000. That should help." I thanked her. I did not tell her that Emma's education fund already held $190,000. My mother said, "Of course, the house will go to Claire. She has the space for family gatherings, you understand." I understood. She patted my hand. "You have always been so reasonable." I had closed a contract worth $1.8 million the week before. I smiled and finished my soup. My family saw what they wanted to see. I was the struggling single mother. Claire was the success story. Richard was the patriarch. My mother was the matriarch holding everything together. What they did not see was that I had spent 8 years building a consulting firm. What started as freelance pharmaceutical work had grown into a company with 6 employees and contracts with 3 major hospital networks. I worked from home. I kept my office minimal. When family visited, they saw a desk and a laptop. They did not see the financial statements. They did not see the investment portfolio. They did not see the legal team I had on retainer. I did not hide it. I simply did not announce it. My mother asked me once what I did all day. I told her I made phone calls and wrote reports. She nodded and changed the subject. Claire asked me once how I afforded Emma's school. I told her I had saved carefully. She said, "Well, that is smart. I am glad you are being responsible." She drove a Mercedes. I drove my mother's old Toyota. The Mercedes cost $60,000. I had $60,000 in my checking account as a buffer. I kept the Toyota because it made my life easier. Richard hosted the family meeting in June. He wanted to discuss the trust distribution. My grandfather's instructions had been vague, equal shares to his children, but Richard interpreted equal differently depending on the year. He sent an email, formal. Everyone was required to attend. I read the email. I forwarded it to Patricia. She called me. "This is it." I said, "Not yet." She said, "When?" I said, "When he makes it clear." Richard opened the meeting with a speech about family legacy. He talked about blood. He talked about responsibility. He looked at Emma twice while he said it. Emma colored. She had her headphones on. She looked like she was not paying attention. She was paying attention. We had practiced that too. Richard said the trust would be divided into 3 portions, one for my mother, one for Margaret, one for him. My mother raised her hand. "What about the girls?" Richard smiled. "The girls are grown. Claire has married well. She does not need it." And as for the other situation, he looked at me. "Well, some choices come with consequences." I did not react. I had learned not to react. Margaret said, "Richard, that seems unfair." Richard said, "Fair is what keeps the family intact. Blood keeps the family intact." I stood up. I said I needed to take Emma to the restroom. Richard waved his hand. "Of course." I took Emma's hand. We walked out. We did not go to the restroom. We went to my car. I opened the glove compartment. I checked the recording device I had installed 3 weeks earlier. It was working. We went back inside. Richard was still talking. "Let me be very clear. This family has standards. We do not dilute the bloodline. We do not pretend that everyone has the same claim." I sat down. Emma sat beside me. Richard looked directly at her. "Some people belong, some people do not." Emma looked up at me. I nodded. Richard continued. Before we finalize anything, I want to make sure we all understand. This child is worthless, SHESADOPTED, not blood family. She has no claim to any of this. I pressed play. Everything I had built was about to be tested in front of 43 people who had absolutely no idea it existed. The recording played through the speaker. Richard's voice was clear. Every word he had just said came back to him. The room shifted, not silent. Worse. The kind of quiet where everyone is deciding what they are willing to pretend they did not hear. My mother moved first. She reached for the phone in my hand. Turn that off. I did not turn it off. I let it play to the end, then I stopped it. Richard's face had gone from confident to something else. Not embarrassed, cornered, Margaret spoke. Get out, Richard. He looked at her. This is ridiculous. She is baiting me. Get out. Linda stood. Richard stood. They walked to the door. He turned back once. You will regret this. I did not respond. After they left, my mother turned to me. Her voice was low. What exactly do you think you just accomplished? I looked at her. I documented what he said, the same thing I have been documenting for 18 months. She blinked. 18 months? Yes. Why? Because Emma's attorney told me to. My mother sat down. Claire was staring at me. Greg had not moved. Margaret cleared her throat. I think we should postpone the rest of this discussion. Everyone agreed. The meeting dissolved. People left in clusters. My mother did not speak to me on the way out. Emma and I walked to the car. She climbed into the back seat. I got in the driver's side. She asked, did we do it right? I told her yes. She asked, is Grandma mad? I told her probably. She nodded. She went back to her coloring book. I drove home. I called Patricia from the driveway. She answered on the first ring. How did it go? I told her. She was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, not loud. The kind of laugh that means someone has been waiting for something and it finally happened. Do you want to move forward? I told her yes. She said, then we file tomorrow. I will send the paperwork tonight. I had not planned to build a company. It started with one contract. A hospital network needed someone to consult on device purchasing. I knew the field. I knew the vendors. I gave them a proposal. They hired me. That was 8 years ago. The contract was worth $75,000. I finished it in 4 months. The hospital asked if I could do it again. I said yes. They referred me to another network. That contract was worth $130,000. By the time Emma was 3, I had 6 contracts running simultaneously. I hired an assistant. Then I hired 2 more consultants. Then I hired a project manager. I did not tell my family because they did not ask. When my mother asked what I did for work, I said consulting. She nodded. She pictured something small. It was not small. By the time Emma turned 7, my firm had 12 employees and contracts with 8 hospital networks across 4 states. Annual revenue was $3.2 million. My personal income was just over $1 million annually. I kept the Toyota because it was easier than explaining why I bought a new car. I kept my office at home because I did not need to prove anything to anyone except my clients. My family saw what I let them see. Patricia had been my attorney for 3 years before the recording started. I hired her initially for contract work. She reviewed vendor agreements. She handled employment paperwork when I hired my 4th consultant. She asked me once why I kept everything so quiet. I told her it was simpler. She said, simpler than what? I said, simpler than dealing with my family's opinions about what I should do with it. She understood. When Richard made the comment about Emma at the barbecue, I called Patricia the next day. I told her what he said. I told her what my mother had said at Christmas. I told her what Greg had said to Emma. Patricia asked, do you think this is escalating? I told her yes. She said, then we document every comment, every incident. If this goes where I think it is going, you will need proof. I started carrying my phone everywhere. I started writing down dates and times. I kept a folder on my laptop with transcripts of every conversation that mentioned Emma's adoption. Patricia asked if I wanted to bring a case now. I told her no, not yet. She asked what I was waiting for. I told her I was waiting for them to make it undeniable. The first close call happened in April. My mother invited me to lunch. She said she wanted to talk about the family trust. We met at a restaurant downtown. She ordered salmon. I ordered chicken. She started by saying she had been thinking about the future. Richard is not getting any younger. Neither am I. I want to make sure things are handled properly. I nodded. She continued. The trust is complicated. Your grandfather set it up with certain assumptions. He assumed his children would have children of their own, blood children. I kept my face neutral. She went on, I know you love Emma, but legally she is not part of the bloodline. That matters for estate purposes. I took a sip of water. What are you saying? I am saying that when the time comes, the distribution will reflect the family structure. Claire's children will inherit, Emma will not. I set my glass down carefully. That seems clear. My mother relaxed. She thought I was accepting it. I am glad you understand. I was worried you might take it personally. I don't take it personally, she smiled. Good, because it is nothing personal, it is just how these things work. I finished my chicken, we talked about other things, she paid the bill, I walked to my car, I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, then I called Patricia, she picked up. What happened? I told her. She was quiet for a beat. Did you record it? Yes. Good, send it to me. I sent the audio file. Then I opened my laptop. I had a meeting with a new hospital network in an hour. The contract was worth $450,000. I reviewed my notes. I joined the video call. I closed the deal. My mother called that evening. She said she had enjoyed lunch. She said she was proud of how mature I was being about everything. I thanked her. The second close call happened in June. Claire hosted a family dinner. She invited everyone. Emma and I arrived at 6. Claire's house smelled like roasted vegetables and expensive candles. Her husband Mark was grilling on the back patio. My mother was already there, sitting in the living room with a glass of wine. Claire pulled me aside in the kitchen. I am glad you came. I wanted to talk to you about something. I waited. She lowered her voice. Mom told me about the trust situation. I just want you to know that I think it is fair. I mean, Emma is wonderful, but she is not actually family. You understand that, right? I looked at her. I understand what you think, she smiled. I knew you would get it. Some people would make a big deal out of this, but you have always been reasonable. From the living room, my mother called out. Claire, do you have more wine? Claire touched my arm. We should talk more later. I have some ideas about how to help Emma. Maybe a small education fund, nothing major but something. I told her that was thoughtful. She went to refill my mother's glass. I stood in the kitchen. I could see Emma in the backyard. She was drawing with chalk on the patio stones. Mark was watching the grill. Greg walked into the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator and pulled out a beer. He looked at me. Claire told you? About what? About the trust. Yes, he shrugged. It makes sense. I mean, no offense, but adoption is not the same as blood. Everyone knows that. I did not respond. He opened his beer. You know what your problem is? You are too nice. You let people walk all over you. If it were me, I would have said something by now. I looked at him. Maybe I am saying something, you just are not hearing it yet. He laughed. Right, okay. He walked back outside. I went to the bathroom. I locked the door. I sent Patricia a text. They are all in agreement. They think I am accepting this. She replied immediately, perfect. Let them think that. I went back to the dinner. I sat next to Emma. I ate my food. I smiled when appropriate. My mother made a toast. To family. To the people who stay together no matter what. Everyone raised their glasses. I raised mine. That night I stayed up until 2 in the morning. I had a contract negotiation in the morning, a hospital network in Ohio. They wanted a 3-year consulting agreement. The total value was $1.6 million. I prepared my proposal. I reviewed their budgets. I built the pricing model. At 6 in the morning, I sent the proposal. By 9, they had accepted. I called Patricia. We are ready, she asked. Are you sure? I told her yes. She said, then I will draft everything. You just have to tell me when. The third close call happened in August. Richard called me directly. He had not spoken to me since the barbecue incident. His voice was stiff. I think we need to clear the air. I asked about what? About the trust, about Emma. I do not want there to be any confusion when the formal reading happens. I waited. He went on. Your mother and I have been discussing the distribution. We want to make sure everyone is on the same page. Claire will receive the primary share. You will receive a smaller amount given your circumstances. My circumstances? Your choice to adopt, it is not a judgment, it is just a factor. I kept my voice even. What amount are we talking about? He paused. I could hear him breathing. We were thinking $200,000 for you, $1.2 million for Claire. That is quite a difference. Well, Claire has children, legitimate heirs. You have a dependent who is not part of the family line. Surely you see the distinction. I asked, when is the formal reading? Next month. I will send an email with the details. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I know it might be disappointing, but I hope you understand it is nothing personal. I understand. He sounded relieved. Good, I am glad we could talk about this like adults. I hung up. I sat at my desk. I looked at the financial statements on my screen. My firm had closed the quarter at $4.1 million in revenue. My personal net worth was just over $7 million. I called Patricia. He gave me the numbers. She asked what they were. I told her. She was silent for a moment, then she spoke. Do you want to fight this in probate or do you want to make a statement? I asked what the difference was. She explained. Probate is quiet. We file objections. We argue in front of a judge. It takes months, maybe a year. You win, but only the lawyers see it. And a statement? A statement is public. It is the reading. It is in front of everyone. You let them think they have won, then you show them what they actually missed. I thought about Emma. I thought about every comment, every dismissal, every time someone patted my hand and told me I was being reasonable. I told Patricia I wanted the statement. She said, then we wait. Let them set the stage. We will be ready. I did not tell Emma what was happening. She knew there was tension. She knew Grandma was upset, but she did not know the details. She asked me once if we were in trouble. I told her no. She asked if people were mad at us. I told her some people were confused, but that was okay. She asked if we were going to leave. I looked at her. Do you want to leave? She thought about it, then she shook her head. No, I want them to know they were wrong. I asked her what she meant. She said, I want them to know I am part of this family, even if they do not think so. I told her that was a good thing to want. She went back to her homework. I went back to my laptop. Patricia sent the paperwork in September. Everything was filed. Everything was ready. All I had to do was wait for Richard to set the meeting. The email came on a Tuesday, formal family meeting, will reading, everyone required to attend. I read the email twice. Then I forwarded it to Patricia. She called me. This is it. I asked if everything was in place. She confirmed. Everything is filed. The documents are ready. The recordings are logged. All you have to do is show up. I asked what I should bring. She said, just yourself and Emma. I asked why Emma. Patricia's voice was calm. Because this is about her. They need to see her. They need to remember who they have been talking about. I told her I would bring Emma. She said, then I will see you there. The night before the meeting, I did not sleep well. I kept thinking about what would happen. I kept running through the scenarios. Emma found me in the kitchen at 2 in the morning. She asked why I was awake. I told her I was thinking. She asked what about. I told her about tomorrow. She climbed onto the chair next to me. Are you scared? I asked if she was. She shook her head. No, you told me we practiced. We did. Then it will be okay. I looked at her. 9 years old, steady, clear. I asked her if she understood what might happen. She nodded. They are going to say mean things. And then you are going to show them they were wrong. That is mostly right. What is the other part? The other part is that after tomorrow, everything changes. Some people might not talk to us anymore. Some people might be very angry. She thought about that. Will we be okay? I told her yes. She said, then I do not care if they are angry. She went back to bed. I stayed in the kitchen. I opened my laptop. I reviewed the documents one more time. Everything was there, every recording. Every email, every piece of evidence that showed exactly who had said what and when. Patricia had organized it into a folder, clean, thorough, undeniable. I closed the laptop. I went to bed. The alarm went off at 6. I got up, I made breakfast. Emma came downstairs in the dress I had laid out for her the night before, blue, her favorite. She asked if she should bring her coloring book. I told her yes. We got in the car. We drove to my mother's house. We parked in the driveway. Emma looked at me. Are you ready? I told her I was. She said, me too. We walked to the door. I could see people already inside through the window. 43 people in my mother's formal dining room, waiting to hear how $2 million would be divided among 3 people who thought they were the only ones who mattered. I walked through the door. My mother was standing near the dining room entrance. She looked at me, then at Emma, then back at me. You brought her. I want to know if you would have said what I said next, because I still think about it. She is part of this family. She should be here. My mother's lips pressed together. She did not argue. She turned and walked into the dining room. Emma and I followed. The room was full. 43 people in chairs arranged in rows. Claire sat in the front with Mark. Greg was near the back. Margaret sat to the side. Richard stood at the head of the table with a folder in his hands. He saw me. His expression did not change. He looked at Emma. Something flickered across his face. Not guilt. Calculation. My mother gestured to 2 seats near the back. You can sit there. I took Emma's hand. We sat. Richard waited until everyone was settled. Then he cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. This is an important day for our family. We are here to finalize the distribution of the family trust as outlined by my father's wishes. He opened the folder. He pulled out a document. The total value of the trust is $2 million. After careful consideration and consultation with the family, the distribution will be as follows. He paused. He looked around the room. He was enjoying this. Margaret will receive $400,000. My mother will receive $400,000. I will receive the remaining $1.2 million to be distributed among my direct heirs. Someone in the back coughed. Margaret shifted in her seat. Richard continued. Claire, as the eldest grandchild and a member of the direct bloodline, will receive $300,000 from my portion. The remainder will be held in trust for her children. Claire smiled. She looked at my mother. My mother nodded. Richard turned a page. As for the remaining family members, there are some who, due to circumstances beyond their control, do not qualify for distribution under the terms of blood inheritance. He looked directly at me. I want to be clear. This is not personal. This is simply how inheritance works. Family lines matter. Blood matters. I did not move. He went on. However, we are not without compassion. We recognize that some members of this family have made choices that, while not traditional, still deserve acknowledgement. Emma was coloring. She had her headphones on. She looked like she was not listening. She was listening. Richard smiled. It was the smile of someone who thinks he is being generous. Therefore, we have set aside $50,000 for Emma's education fund. This is a gift, not an inheritance. It reflects our willingness to support all children in this family, regardless of their legal status. He set the paper down. He looked at me. I hope you understand that this is more than fair, given the circumstances. My mother spoke from the front row. We talked about this. We wanted to make sure Emma was taken care of, even though she is not actually part of the family line. Claire nodded. It is really generous when you think about it. Greg leaned back in his chair. He was smiling. Margaret said nothing. She was looking at the floor. Richard folded his hands. Are there any questions? I raised my hand. He looked surprised. Yes, I stood up. Emma looked up at me. I nodded at her. She took off her headphones. I have a question about the legal basis for this distribution. Richard blinked. The legal basis is the family bloodline. That is standard for estate law. Is it? Of course. I reached into my bag. I pulled out my phone, because I have been reviewing estate law for the past 18 months and I am not sure that is accurate. My mother turned in her seat. What are you talking about? I looked at her. I am talking about the fact that adoption creates a legal parent-child relationship that is identical to biological parentage in every state in this country. Emma is legally my daughter. She has the same inheritance rights as any biological child. Richard's face shifted. Not panic, irritation. That is not how this family operates, but it is how the law operates. Claire stood up. This is not the time for this. I looked at her. When is the time? After you have already taken the money? My mother's voice was sharp. Sit down, you are making a scene. I stayed standing. I am clarifying a legal point. Richard just announced a distribution that violates both state law and the terms of grandfather's original trust. Richard set the folder down. I have reviewed the trust extensively. I know what it says. Do you? Yes. I pulled a document from my bag. I had printed it that morning. This is a copy of grandfather's trust. The original language says to be divided equally among my children and their descendants. It does not say blood descendants. It says descendants. I handed the document to Margaret. She took it. She read the first page. Richard crossed his arms. Descendants implies blood relation. Number descendants is a legal term that includes adopted children. Any estate attorney will tell you that. My mother stood up. Where did you get that document? From the probate court. It is a public record. She looked at Richard. Is this true? Richard's jaw tightened. The interpretation is debatable. I pulled out my phone. Is it? Because I have an opinion letter from 3 estate attorneys who all agree that adopted children are included under the term descendants unless explicitly excluded. I held up the phone. No one moved. Claire's voice was thin. You talked to attorneys? Yes. When? 18 months ago. The room was not silent. There was a hum. The sound of people realizing something was happening that they had not expected. Margaret spoke. Her voice was quiet. Why did you wait 18 months? I looked at her. Because I wanted to be sure. I wanted documentation. I wanted to know exactly what I was dealing with before I said anything. Richard stepped forward. This is absurd. You cannot just walk in here and overturn a family decision based on some technicality. It is not a technicality. It is the law. The law is not the only thing that matters. This family has traditions. I met his eyes. Your traditions do not override my daughter's legal rights. He opened his mouth. Then he closed it. My mother's voice cut through. Even if what you're saying is true, it does not change the fact that we have already made this decision. The family agrees. You are outvoted. I turned to her. This is not a vote. This is an estate distribution, and estate distributions follow the law, not family opinions. Claire moved closer. You are being ridiculous. $50,000 is a generous gift. You should be grateful. I looked at her. She was holding her purse like it was a shield. She looked at me the way people look at someone they have already decided does not matter. I had been waiting for that look for 4 years. Grateful for what? For you deciding that my daughter is worth less than your children. For Richard announcing in front of 43 people that Emma is worthless because she is adopted. Claire's face flushed. He did not say that. I pressed play on my phone. Richard's voice filled the room, clear, exact. This child is worthless, SHESADOPTED, not blood family. The recording stopped. No one spoke. Emma stood up. She walked to the front of the room. She looked at Richard. Her voice was steady. The judge said to keep recording because you might say something like that again. Richard stared at her. What judge? Emma looked at me. I nodded. She turned back to Richard. The judge who approved the restraining order. My mother's head snapped toward me. What restraining order? I reached into my bag again. I pulled out another document. The one I filed 3 weeks ago. It prohibits Richard from making any unilateral decisions regarding the family trust without court approval. I handed the document to Margaret. She took it. She read it. Her hands were shaking. Richard's voice was loud. You filed a restraining order against me? I filed an injunction against unauthorized trust distributions. You are named because you are the trustee. This is insane. This is legal protection. My mother stood up. She was shaking, not with fear, with rage. How dare you? How dare you come into this family meeting and ambush us like this? I looked at her. I am not ambushing you. I am stopping you from violating the law. We are your family. Then act like it. She took a step toward me, her voice dropped. You are ungrateful. After everything we have done for you, after everything I have given you. What have you given me? A family, a home, support. You gave me a car you did not want anymore and advice I did not ask for. That is not support. That is control. Claire moved between us. Stop it, both of you. This is not helping. I looked at her. You are right. This is not helping, so let me show you what will help. I pulled out another folder, thicker this time. This is a full accounting of the trust for the past 10 years, every transaction Richard made, every distribution he authorized, every fee he charged. Margaret leaned forward. Fees? Yes. Richard has been charging the trust a management fee of 3% annually. That is $60,000 per year. Over 10 years, that is $600,000. Richard's face changed. That is standard practice for trust management. It is standard if disclosed. You never disclosed it. My mother turned to Richard. Is this true? He did not answer. I continued. The trust document allows for reasonable management fees, but they must be approved by all beneficiaries. You never asked for approval. You just took the money. Margaret stood up. She walked to Richard. She held out her hand. Give me the folder. He hesitated. Give it to me. He handed it to her. She opened it. She read the first page, then the second. Her face changed with each line. She looked up at Richard. You have been taking $60,000 a year without telling us? It is complicated. It is theft. It is not theft. It is compensation for my work. Margaret's voice was ice. We did not authorize this. My mother was reading over Margaret's shoulder. Her face had lost color. Richard, what is this? He stepped back. You do not understand how trust management works. There are expenses, there are responsibilities. I spoke. There are also laws, and you broke them. Richard turned on me. You have no idea what you are talking about. You walk in here with your lawyers and your recordings and your self-righteousness, and you think you understand this family. You do not. I understand that you have been stealing from your own mother and sister for 10 years. I have been managing this family's assets. You have been enriching yourself. He took a step toward me. You are going to regret this. I did not move. Am I? Yes. Why? Because you will cut me out of the family? You already did that. Because you will tell everyone I am ungrateful? You already did that too. What exactly do you think you can do to me that you have not already done? He stopped. I continued. You spent 10 years telling me I was not good enough. You spent 10 years telling my daughter she did not belong. You spent 10 years taking money that was not yours while lecturing everyone else about family values. My voice was calm. I had practiced this. So no, Richard, I am not going to regret this, but you might. Margaret set the folder down. She looked at my mother. We need to remove him as trustee. My mother did not respond. She was staring at the folder. Margaret turned to Richard. You are done. I am filing a petition to remove you tomorrow. Richard's face was red. You cannot do that. Touch me? Claire stepped forward. She looked panicked. Wait, can we just talk about this? We are family. We should not be fighting like this. I looked at her. We stopped being family the moment you decided my daughter did not count. That is not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? You sat here and smiled while Richard gave you $300,000 and gave Emma $50,000. You did not say a word. I did not know about the fees. You knew about the adoption discrimination. You agreed with it. You said it made sense. She looked at the floor. Greg stood up from the back. This is crazy. You are tearing this family apart over money. I turned to him. I am not tearing anything apart. I am exposing what was already broken. He shook his head. You always thought you were better than us. No, I just refused to accept being treated like I was less. If you are still here, hit like. I need to know you saw that. Richard was breathing hard. He pointed at me. You planned this. You have been planning this for months. 18 months. You manipulated us. I documented you. There is a difference. My mother finally spoke. Her voice was quiet. Why did you not just talk to us? I looked at her. I tried. 3 years ago, I told you I was concerned about how Emma was being treated. You told me I was being sensitive. 2 years ago, I asked if Emma would be included in family estate planning. You said we would discuss it later. Last year, I asked Richard directly if Emma was considered part of the family for inheritance purposes. He laughed and said not to worry about it. She said nothing. So no, Mom, I did not just talk to you. I tried talking to you. You did not listen, so I built a case instead. Margaret was still reading the folder. She looked up. There are distributions here I never approved. Medical expenses, education costs. What are these? I walked over. I looked at the page she was pointing to. Those are payments Richard made to his own children. He classified them as trust expenses. Margaret's hand tightened on the folder. He paid for his children's college out of the trust, and their cars and their wedding deposits. My mother grabbed the folder. She flipped through the pages. Her breathing was shallow. Richard held up his hands. Those were legitimate expenses. The trust allows for educational support. Margaret's voice was sharp. For beneficiaries. Not for the trustees' children. They are family. So is Emma, but you did not give her anything. Richard's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I reached into my bag one more time. I pulled out the last document. This is a petition for full trust accounting and trustee removal. It has been filed with the probate court. The hearing is scheduled for October 15th. I handed it to Margaret. She took it. She did not read it. She just held it. My mother was still staring at the folder. How much did you take, Richard? He did not answer. How much? It was not taking, it was management. Margaret's voice was cold. How much? Richard looked at the ceiling. Including fees and expenses, approximately $900,000 over 10 years. The room erupted. People were standing. People were talking over each other. Greg was yelling something. Claire was crying. My mother was gripping the edge of the table. Margaret's voice cut through. Get out. Richard turned to her. What? Get out of this house. Get out of this meeting. Get out of my sight. Margaret, you do not understand. I understand perfectly. You stole from us. You lied to us. You used your position to enrich yourself while lecturing everyone else about family loyalty. Get out. Richard looked at my mother. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? My mother did not look at him. She was staring at the folder. Go, Richard. You cannot be serious. Go. He stood there for a moment. Then he picked up his folder. He walked to the door. Linda followed him. They left. The room was chaos. People were talking. Margaret was on her phone. Claire was sitting with her head in her hands. My mother looked at me. Are you satisfied? I met her eyes. No. What else do you want? I want Emma to be treated like family. I want the trust distributed according to the law. I want you to acknowledge that what you did was wrong. She looked away. I had one more thing to say. I walked to the front of the room. I stood next to Margaret. I pulled out one more folder. There is something else you need to see. My mother looked up. What now? I opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, account summaries, investment reports. While Richard was managing the family trust, I was building something of my own. Margaret leaned closer. What is this? This is my company. I started it 8 years ago. It began as freelance pharmaceutical consulting. It grew. I handed her the first page. This is the revenue summary for the last fiscal year, $4.1 million. The room went completely still. Claire's voice was barely audible. 4 million? 4.1 million. My personal income last year was $1.3 million. My net worth is currently $7.2 million. My mother stood up. She walked over. She took the paper from Margaret. She read it. She read it again. This cannot be real. It is real. I have 8 employees. Contracts with 12 hospital networks, a CPA, a business attorney, an investment advisor. Claire was shaking her head. You told me you did consulting. I do. You said it was small. I never said that. You assumed it was small. I let you assume. Greg stood up from the back. Why would you hide this? I turned to him. I did not hide it. I just did not announce it. Every time someone asked what I did, I told them consulting. No one asked for details. No one asked how much I made. No one asked if I needed help. My mother's hands were trembling. We offered you help. You offered me your old car and $50,000 for Emma's education. I appreciated the car, but I did not need either. I pulled out another document. This is Emma's trust fund, the one I set up when she was 2. It currently holds $640,000. It is managed by a professional trustee. Emma will have access to it when she turns 25. Margaret was staring at the paper. 640,000? Yes. You saved that much? I earned it, I invested it, I protected it. My mother sat down heavily. Why did you not tell us? I looked at her. Because you would have done exactly what you are doing now. You would have questioned it. You would have told me I was being irresponsible. You would have tried to manage it for me. We are your family. Then why did you treat me like I was incompetent? Why did you treat my daughter like she was worthless? She did not answer. I turned to the room. You all sat here and listened to Richard announce that Emma would get $50,000 as a gift. Not an inheritance, a gift, because she is not real family. I held up the trust document. Emma's trust fund is worth 13 times what you were offering her. I built that myself, without your help, without your approval, without your permission. Claire's voice was thin. You let us think you were struggling. I was never struggling, you just never asked. You could have told us. Why? So you could judge me, so you could tell me I was doing it wrong, so you could try to control how I spent my money? I looked at my mother. You told me when I was 24 that I was not built for ambition. You told me when I adopted Emma that I could barely support myself. You told me last year that Claire's house was what success looked like. My mother's face was ashen. I let you believe all of that because it was easier than fighting you, but I am done being quiet. I pulled out the last document. This is a petition for equal distribution of the family trust. Based on grandfather's original language, Emma is entitled to the same share as Claire's children. That means the trust should be divided into 4 portions, 1 for Margaret, 1 for Mom, 1 for Claire's line, 1 for mine. Margaret took the document, she read it. She looked up at me. This changes everything. Yes, my mother's voice was barely a whisper. You are going to take us to court? I am going to enforce the law. If you contest it, then yes, we will go to court. She looked at Emma. Emma was sitting in her chair, coloring, calm, steady. My mother's voice cracked. She is just a child. She is my child, and she deserves the same treatment as every other grandchild in this family. Margaret set the document down. She looked at my mother. She is right. My mother turned to her. What? She is right. The trust language includes Emma. Legally, she has a claim. Morally, she should have always had one. Margaret, no, I am done with this. Richard lied to us, he stole from us, and we let him because we were too focused on keeping things the way they have always been. She looked at me. I am sorry, I should have said something sooner. I nodded. My mother stood up. She walked to the window. She stood there for a long time. Then she turned around. What do you want? I met her eyes. I want Emma to receive her fair share of the trust. I want Richard removed as trustee. I want a full accounting of every transaction he made. And I want you to stop treating my daughter like she is less than family. And if I agree to that, then we settle this quietly. The trust gets redistributed according to the law. Emma gets what she is entitled to, and we move on. And if I do not, then I file this petition. We go to court. A judge reviews everything. Richard's fees, his unauthorized distributions, the discrimination against Emma, all of it becomes public record. My mother looked at Margaret. Margaret looked back at her. Finally, my mother spoke. Fine. Fine what? Fine, we will redistribute the trust. We will remove Richard. We will do this your way. I watched her. I need that in writing. She closed her eyes. You will have it. Margaret pulled out her phone. I am calling my attorney. We will draft a settlement agreement tonight. Claire stood up. She walked toward the door. Mark followed her. She did not look at me. Greg left without saying anything. One by one, people filed out. Some stopped to talk to Margaret. Some stopped to look at me. Most just left. Within 20 minutes, the room was almost empty. Just me, Emma, Margaret, and my mother. Margaret was on the phone with her attorney. My mother was still standing by the window. Emma walked over to me. Can we go home now? I told her yes. We walked to the door. My mother called my name. I stopped. She turned around. Her face was drawn. I did not know about your company, about the trust fund, about any of it. You never asked. I should have. I did not respond. She continued. I thought I was helping. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment. You were protecting yourself. You wanted me to stay small so you could feel needed. She flinched. I softened slightly. I do not need you to manage my life, Mom. I never did. I just needed you to believe in me. She looked at Emma. Does she know about the money? She knows we are secure. She does not need to know the details yet. My mother nodded slowly. She is lucky to have you. I am lucky to have her. I took Emma's hand. We walked out. The settlement was signed 6 days later. Margaret's attorney drafted it. My attorney reviewed it. Richard was removed as trustee. Margaret took over temporarily until a professional trustee could be appointed. The trust was redistributed, $2 million divided into 4 equal portions, $500,000 for Margaret, $500,000 for my mother, $500,000 for Claire's children, held in trust until they turned 25, $500,000 for Emma, also held in trust. Richard was required to repay $400,000 in unauthorized fees and distributions. He sold his vacation property to cover it. Linda filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Last I heard, he moved to Arizona. No one in the family speaks to him. My mother called me a month after the settlement. She asked if Emma and I would come to Sunday dinner. I told her we would think about it. We went once. It was awkward. We have not been back. Claire sent me a text on Emma's birthday. It said happy birthday to Emma. I did not respond. Margaret and I talk occasionally. She asked me about my business. I told her the basics. She said she was impressed. I appreciated that. Emma is doing well. She turned 10 last month. She is still in the same school. She still draws. She asked me once if Grandma was coming to her birthday party. I said probably not. She said okay and went back to her homework. My company closed last quarter at $5.3 million in revenue. I hired 3 more consultants. I am considering opening a second office. I do not think about the family meeting often. When I do, I think about the moment Richard's face changed when he realized I had been documenting everything. I think about my mother reading my financial statements. I think about Emma sitting quietly in the corner, coloring, while everything unfolded exactly as we had practiced. My hands had stopped shaking by the time we got to the car that day. I had been holding my breath. I let it out slowly. Emma asked me if we won. I told her we did not win or lose. We just made sure things were fair. She thought about that. Then she said, "Good." We drove home. We ordered pizza. We watched a movie. It was a normal night. That was the point. So did I go too far or not far enough? Tell me in the comments.